Hello everyone, Stryker here, and today we're watching a video from Zacharias again. As always, he has a really good content on like finance and all this stuff. People making questionable decisions on purchasing. I can't say I'm perfect as far as balancing budget. I do try to get better day by day, especially as a business owner. I need to make sure I do my best to understand balancing checkbooks and all this stuff. Checkbooks sound like I'm 80. Um, but I like to think I have some sort of uh ability to know, like, I know my mortgage needs to get paid. I know my car insurance needs to get paid, right? Everything else, once those things are paid, once my bills are paid, my loans are paid, then I can do whatever I want with the money. Saving a little bit of it. I do put some aside for like investments, my IRA, all that stuff. After that, we have a little bit of Stryker fund money. Then you can do what you want. What do I want? Um, anyways, Zacharias, he's not the only one. Of course, there's like Caleb Hammer and all this stuff. But Zacharias, more or less, I guess Caleb's kind of been doing it too, but it kind of goes over people like talking about their finances and stuff like that. Any regrets, any poor decisions, and sometimes, unfortunately, it is just bad luck. Honestly, sometimes you can have like, I guess if you go with a strict budget, I guess you could in theory have some stuff set aside, but there are people who, unfortunately, they do everything right, and sometimes life just gives you a sucker punch. Either way, I know, back to the topic of this video is about buying homes. I have a home. Um More so, I would have stayed as a renter if I had to, but I kind of wanted to get on my own. I'm lucky that I found a house that was less than the cost of renting around me. The cost of rent around me is about $1,500, about $1,200, $1,500. Which, I guess depends on where you live. Like, that's, yeah, they're really expensive or really cheap. But it's really expensive for me. Not that, so my mortgage is about 1,200, almost $1,300. It's like 1,290, 1,292. So I pretty much consider it's like $1,300 essentially. But my mortgage is a lot cheaper than rent. And like, the amount of money I would have spent on rent, I would have rather just get the house. Is it the most glamour house? No. There are things I had to fix on it, but it is foundationally is fine. It is older, but that's okay. Uh, I knew those things going in, buying the house. I knew there's things I had to improve on it, and they weren't selling the house anytime soon. So they're like, you know what? It's better to sell the house to someone who wants it rather than let it sit there for more time and let it waste money. This was not during COVID era, so I didn't get the chance to. I didn't really buy it at an exorbitant price. I got it around. It cost me like $162,000. And I have a 30-year loan. I'm currently paying on student loans. Once I pay on student loans, my plan is to pay more on the house. But the house payment is such a low priority. Well, I mean, not low priority. I make sure it gets paid. But paying extra is a lower priority at the moment. I'd rather get the student loans taken care of. But not everyone has that luxury. A lot of people went into COVID, sold their homes at really high prices. They bought homes at, uh, at unreasonable estate, and some are either regretting it because they can't sell the homes. Because right now, it's what? I guess you could say it's a buyer. Is it a buyer's market? I know it fluctuates, right? During COVID, it was a seller's market. People were selling homes like crazy. Uh, but then now it's like a buyer's market in a way where people are getting really desperate, or people people are expecting to sell their home for COVID prices is what I should explain, where people are selling their homes for unreasonable amount of money because they paid for those homes for an unreasonable amount of money due to circumstance probably unforeseen. Sure, sometimes you don't have a choice but to move and to buy a home, but we'll get more into it, I suppose. But if you want the link to the original video, as always, will be in the description below. Give Zach Rios a subscribe. He has a lot of good information about finances in general, as far as I would think common sense stuff, what to and not to spend money on. But sometimes people just need to be like have their eyes open. You don't know what you don't know. Is what I say a lot for like in IT. I know I won't get into that tangent, but let's just get started.
And paying off our home in California. I'm gonna be real with you guys, home ownership is a little bit of a scam.
I just wanted to talk about homeowner regret. Now that I'm in the market, I don't think I made a great choice.
Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at some people who regret buying their homes.
Yeah.
This is something people love to argue about online, the whole rent versus buying situation. And before we get into this, I want to say that I would like to buy a home one day, even though I'm renting currently. So this
Sure.
video isn't just trying to get everybody to rent forever. But no
Sure.
matter what side you're on, I see videos uploaded every day of someone saying they regret buying their house. We have
I do think, I don't mean to interrupt so soon, but I do think renting I think the appeal of renting, right, is that you can pick up and you can leave at any time. It tends to be cheaper than buying a home, and but buying a home, it's your rules, right? You don't have to have a landlord's rules. So I can understand both sides of the argument. Like I said, a lot of the things I had to fix it. A landlord's not going to come out and fix these things. Now, granted, some will argue, like, well, yeah, where I rent from, they also don't fix it. True. But you do have the option to leave. And I guess I had the option to sell my home, but I know I probably won't make as much at this moment. If I fix everything, I probably could sell it for a little more than what I bought it for. But until that happens, right, I'm probably gonna make even if not less. But yeah, I can see both sides of the argument.
a
I
ton of
agree.
stuff to go over today, along with comments from you guys from previous videos. So if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's just jump right into it.
So I'm selling my house and I'm going back to renting. I am here to just share some things that I didn't know as a first-time home buyer. I'm sure that there are other people out there who did not have home buying 101 when they were a kid. If
Yeah.
you are considering buying your first home or you're in the process of buying your first home, I just wanted to share some things that I learned in the process and being a homeowner for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
First, yes, there are hidden fees and hidden costs,
Yes.
repair, emergencies, but what
Yeah.
they don't tell you is that taxes may increase the cost of your mortgage. They say, "Oh, your mortgage rate will never change," because I have the bank statements to prove that my mortgage rate at the day that I signed for my place
Mm-hmm.
to now has changed. If you're dealing with an HOA,
I don't do
don't.
with
I'm
HOA.
not very handy when it comes to just being able to repair things around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I resort to Professor
Yep.
Google and YouTube University to
Oh.
figure things out. A lot of times I just don't feel like I have the time or the mental capacity to learn how to fix and repair every little thing.
Yeah, and she's taking further steps than I will try it myself, but my mentality is if it's something that I could really screw up and make it worse, I'd rather hire a professional, and someone who has outstanding reviews, rather hire a professional and let them do it versus do it myself. Should I learn how to do some things? Sure. Like I said, if it's something that's not gonna really make it worse, I'll do it. But if it comes like the water heater, I'm not messing with that stuff. I'm gonna have a professional take care of that for me. I'll try troubleshooting, like if my washer or dryer aren't working, I'll try, you know, some troubleshooting that way. But I'm not messing with electricity. I'm not messing with gas. I'm not messing with all those stuff. I'm hiring a professional to do that stuff.
anytime something happens,
Mm-hmm.
that's on me. Like, I want to
It
just
is
be
more
able to
cost.
call maintenance and be
Yeah.
like, hey, whatever, my washer machine is leaking.
And you just don't have that luxury when
Nope.
you're the owner. Another
Yep.
term that I hear a lot, renting is the maximum you'll pay while your mortgage is your minimum. And whether
Yep.
you decide to hire
That's
somebody to
true.
fix whatever is wrong or do it yourself, like she
Mm-hmm.
said, looking up stuff on Google or YouTube, it's still costly and takes a lot of time. This is all while you're working full-time or even
Mm-hmm.
longer hours just to pay the bills.
Yep.
I asked you guys in an older video, do you know someone who regrets buying their home? Sometimes I regret buying mine. Got it for a great price and a great rate, but there was so much maintenance.
Yes.
Something that I had no idea about is that your insurance company can force you to replace your roof or they'll
Yes.
drop you. I
Yeah.
had a perfectly good roof with 0 leaks, but it aged out and I had to drop $10,000
Yep.
within 5 months of getting a letter from them. Given that I've been stuck with a perpetual leak that at this point requires a total bathroom remodel, I regret
Mm-hmm.
buying my house. Me, after I found out my neighbor was a dealer, thankfully she got evicted after about 6 months, but that was a rough 6 months. Do your due diligence when buying.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about home inspections and appraisals. Yes, me, now I rent, I've never been happier, and we got it in 2019. Regretted it for 2 to 3 years while we fixed a lot of junk from the previous owner.
Sure.
Pretty happy with it today, but still wish we had looked at some other options, as we are locked into this low rate now. But we're also going to hear that a lot throughout this video, the difference between buying pre and post COVID. It is
Yes.
basically two completely different worlds at this point. If you bought back in 2015, even 2019, you're probably in a pretty good position. But anything from around 2022 to 2026, it's almost guaranteed that you've overpaid with a pretty bad rate.
Yeah.
I think most people don't actually want to own a home. They just want to own a home. And I think that leads to a lot of situations like this. And I'm not talking about the current housing unaffordability crisis. I'm talking about the cultural conversation around home ownership. And I think the main reason why people end up regretting buying a home is like not even just the unforeseen costs. It's because they never once like explored if they actually wanted to buy a home. They just kind of absorbed this idea that home ownership is like a good thing or what like an adult does or like what they should do. And social comparison is a dangerous drug when it comes to our money, especially when it comes to these giant purchases. Like this is going to
I agree, but I guess in my case, I knew it was gonna be expensive, but I don't like the idea of renting. To me is I'm wasting money in a way because sure, uh in one aspect I'm not expected to do maintenance and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I don't get that money back. Right? It's not an asset anymore. Sure, you can put on your credit report and everything, but in my case, at home, the money I'm putting towards the house is towards the house, and one day, one day I'll own the house, right? And I can sell it. It's mine. I own it. I can sell it at any point and all that stuff. But I see her case. Yes, it is like the American dream to buy a home, have a family, but they don't tell you all the other things that are involved. Like the previous people have said, maintenance and all this stuff, you have to pay that yourself. Um, I'm thankfully, and the roof thing is also true. Yeah, and you had to get that replaced if they tell you to. Like, yeah, I know the roof of my house is. I have it to save money, put money aside, so I can get that repaired at some point. Um, and those are things you had to think of. If the money you're saving, I guess, from not having to rent, you should be putting that money aside for like home repairs. That should be part of your emergency fund, if you have one. Think about having it. Definitely, if you are going to buy a home, the one thing I could highly recommend is that you have a good emergency fund. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the neighbor's going to, well, I guess if the neighbor cuts down a tree and hits your roof, that I guess, insurance. But, insurance isn't that fast, I wouldn't think. But, like, if, like, your water heater stops or the AC stops running, right? You want to get that stuff fixed. Have an emergency fund. You'll thank yourself later.
to be probably one of the biggest purchases someone could make.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of this decision is so emotional, so
Yes.
socially driven, so
Yes.
influenced by all these external factors, even if we don't realize it. Like in America, we grew up with a very, very specific cultural script about like home ownership or money milestones, right? Like get the degree, get the job, buy the house, start the family, retire. And these milestones are very much presented as a sequence that everybody should be following and a sign of if you are successful or not.
So you got a ton of people jumping in head first trying to
Sure.
live the American dream, and now they've come to realize that they regret that decision. We could take a look at a perfect example here.
My husband and I are selling our house, and honestly, I feel so good about that. I cannot wait. After settling into Georgia, my husband and I got married, we're having kids, and I just felt like, okay, everything's coming in together, everything's
Sure.
coming into place, and now we're buying our house, which was relatively like an easy thing to do. We had a great realtor, so
That's good.
this is nothing against the realtor or anything, but I just thought like, okay, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be buying our house and this, that, and the third. And then when we bought our house, I was very happy. I was happy. I couldn't wait to decorate, this, that, and the third, yada, yada. It's been
Sure.
2 years and I'm over it already. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm over it already. Get a 5-bedroom because at the time we thought we needed the extra space. But 2 years later, we have not used any of the space. So the house is too big, in my opinion. It's a lot to clean, which I already knew upon, closing on the house. But again, I was just ecstatic. I was like, okay,
Sure.
first time home buyer, whatever, we're owning a home, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking like, this is not what I want.
Going straight over to the comment section,
And I guess I'm lucky that I didn't need a big home. So I have it's technically a 3-bedroom and 1.5 bath. It sounds like a lot, but it's like I have to look at the square footage. It's not a very big house. Like my house is probably if I think about it, honestly, my home is probably no bigger than like a modular home, like one of the double wides. It's probably about as big as my house is, if not maybe a little bit smaller because it's not as wide. So my house is not very big, which I'm fine with. I was fine with having a small home. I didn't need a very big home. It was nice to have a 3-bedroom and 1.5 bath. But I didn't really need all the extra storage
I'm
or all the
happy
extra
with my
space.
1275 mortgage purchased before COVID. There you go. No HOA house
Yes.
in a good area. I can't imagine paying over $3,000 for rent, and the creator responds $3,000 for rent. Who and where?
Probably
Now,
New
this could be the
York,
case if you're in a
Miami.
high cost of living area, maybe near a city, but a 1275 mortgage in today's world
Yes.
is basically unheard of.
1292 is
Now
mine.
seeing that $3,000 price tag on the mortgage is pretty common, and because of this, more and more people are just calling it quits.
Sure.
I am closing on my house today. I'm selling my house and going back to an apartment. Guys, I've been in my apartment for like a week, and this is truly the best decision I've ever made. Like the maintenance, the yard work,
Sure.
the property taxes, like everything. I'm just so excited to be back in an apartment. If you want to sell your house, you should do it because I feel like a weight is being lifted off of me, not having to worry about a home.
Adding the upkeep of a house along with all the other issues people are dealing with, the high cost of living climate we're in, car payments, grocery prices. And again, I know these videos make it seem like I'm trying to say everybody should just rent forever. It's way easier. I've been on and off looking for houses for quite a while now, and everything's still just wildly overpriced. And that's before having to save even more money for all of the other hidden costs.
The first time Sam and I bought a house, I was shook by really the cost because I was like, we've got our down payment. That's it. That's all we need. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's the down payment. And when we had to put the offer in, they were like, what's your earnest money that you're going to put down? And I was like, earnest money? What's that? And then they were like, then there's closing costs. And some of those you have to pay out of pocket. I'm like, closing costs. And then there was the inspection and the appraisal. And there were all these things that I was like, I just didn't know. And luckily we had extra money set aside. But I always like to tell people, hey, be prepared. I always say when you go to buy a house, come in with a stacked deck. And I say down payment for D, earnest money for E, closing costs for C, and then the K, I say consider other things.
But one of the problems I'm still seeing is that people are getting approved for more money than they should for a house. And that's a very slippery slope to becoming house poor.
Yes, and that is something as well. I think I was approved for like I think I was approved for like 250,000, which I did not need that. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I didn't need that that was a bit much for me. It was nice that I got approved for that much. I looked at the costs of the mortgage for that. My rule of thumb was uh the mortgage needs to be covered by one paycheck. And I get paid twice a month, so one paycheck does cover that and more. So it's not just like my only that all my money goes towards one mortgage, right? Um but I'm grateful that I'm able to cover that. But yeah, make sure it like I guess take it from me. If you're going to get something like that, make sure you look at your budget. How much do you make? Or if you have like a partner, how much do you guys make? And honestly, like it should cover one of your paychecks. Like one of your paychecks should cover the cost of mortgage. Either one of you. Or I guess whoever earns, like maybe who earns a little bit less, because what if something happens? What if the highest earner loses their job? Hopefully it doesn't happen, but or if you get sick, or if you miss time, something like that. Just keep in mind.
Do you want to be house poor? Do you want to be stressed every time the mortgage comes out? Do you want to buy furniture on credit because all your cash went into the house? Do you want to move in and immediately feel like you have no room to breathe? Or do you want a house that fits into your broader financial plan? That is the conversation, and that is why I do not like when buyers ask, how much can I get approved for? The better question is, what payment allows me to buy a house and still live my life?
Now, the argument on the other side of the coin that does make a good point is that everything is wildly overpriced now. So, of course, my loan amount is larger. We're around an average price of around $400,000 to $430,000 for a house with 6 to 7% mortgage rates. It's a lot easier said than done to just buy a cheaper house now, because maybe you do find something that's much cheaper that's a fixer-upper. That could also be a huge pain down the road. We'll see some videos later about it. But when people actually calculate how much money is going towards the principal when we're talking about mortgages, it starts looking pretty ridiculous.
You know how some people say if you rent, you're just throwing money away, you should own if you can, but owning a house is also very expensive, and I don't want this video to discourage you from buying a house or encourage you to buy houses for educational purposes only, but I want to show you my wife and I's loan. $359,000 we owe at a 5.75% interest rate. We have a 30-year fixed loan, and we've been paying on it for 3.5 years. But just look at how expensive this is and how little is going towards the principal, especially at first. So our monthly payment is $2,825. But our interest is $1,720. Our property taxes and homeowners insurance is about $600 a month. But only $480 a month is going towards paying down that $359 because our loan amount is so high right now, so the interest is kicking our... So we're going to send in $2,825 for 12 months, and it's going to be basically $34,000 that we're going to send in for our house. And this doesn't include utilities, this doesn't include maintenance, this doesn't include our security system, this doesn't include our $97 HOA. So probably more like $35,000 to $36,000 we're going to send in this year. However, only $5,800 is going to go towards paying down the principal.
And let's say you understand all that and you could stomach it. We go 30 years into the future and you've completely paid off your house. It still doesn't mean you actually own your home at the end of the day.
I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for saying this, but as a first-time homeowner that is almost done paying off our home in California, I'm going to be real with you guys, homeownership is a little bit
property taxes.
of a scam. I have always dreamt of becoming a homeowner, right? I grew up very, very poor, and I worked really, really hard to be able to now achieve the life that I have now, where I have a home that I love, and there's a lot to it. Even when I'm done paying off my home, why in the heck am I still going to have to pay property taxes? Like, you never fully own your home, because how are you going to tell me that even after I pay off this mortgage, I'm still going to be paying $4 or $5K a year on property taxes? And mind you, they can go up every year by like 1% or something like that.
Along with living in a state like California that already has pretty brutal taxes. You pay for your house, you don't own the land. The land is always the government's in charge.
So nobody told me about the $10,000 I would spend after closing on my house. I just closed on my first house 3 weeks ago, and I've already spent 10 grand, and that's not including closing costs or down payment.
Now, no like shade to this creator or anything. Like when I when I looked into purchasing a home, I looked into how much all this stuff is going to cost me. I looked into like all the hidden costs and everything. And I talked with my broker and everything. Like they explain all this stuff to me that this is how much you're going to owe. You know, I'm grateful, I guess I had a really good broker because they explained all that stuff to me because they knew I was a first time home owner. I looked at all the paperwork they gave me. I knew about the earnest money. I knew about the closing costs. I knew about all that stuff. The inspection, appraisal, all that stuff. The survey. I knew all that stuff. And I was happy that, they walked me through that. But if you are a first time home owner or you're thinking about it, definitely do your research. Because unfortunately, you're not gonna really know too much on how much you're gonna owe, which is the frustrating part. I think for me, my earnest money, if I remember, so my closing costs was about 5,500. My earnest money was about 1,700, and then my down payment was 10,000 for my home. I got a really good deal, like I said, because the house had been sitting for a long time, and I think the bank just kind of wanted to get rid of it. So they kind of worked with me in that way. But not everyone's going to get that. And plus, I was first time homeowner. So I was able to take advantage of some of those programs to help me out. All I say is do a lot of research. And I guess your down payment, I guess, I don't know, times it by 2 to sort of take into consideration some of those things, like the closing costs.
I'm talking blinds for all the windows, tools because I have to fix things now.
Yeah.
And also the seller took our washer and dryer. Surprise, I didn't know that. And so we had to...
What do you mean, yours? Like, that was probably theirs. I don't understand what you mean. So, when I got the home, it had a refrigerator and an oven. Now, I want to say that I think the bank just included that stuff because I had asked the broker, are they going to take that stuff or are they going to leave it? I think they said it's just going to go with the house. So a lot of times that should be already disclosed to you if that was. But I mean, if they said, I would think that they would have had to disclose the fact that they're taking that stuff with them.
Well, it was their washer and dryer, I guess.
Yeah,
so we had
it was
to get
theirs.
A plumber visit, a lawnmower, snow shovel, like literally just random stuff.
Yeah.
I read a Reddit thread where they talked about how first-time homebuyers just forget extra costs.
Yeah.
Like closing costs, inspections,
Sure.
like immediate repairs, stuff like that. So I'm officially that person.
So, I mean, I gotta say, there has to be more research done when you're going to purchase the
It's
most
a big
expensive
purchase.
thing
It's a
you're
big
going to buy
decision.
in your life. But another aspect that people truly don't realize is the amount of time sunk in for the upkeep of the house.
I used to wonder so much why my parents were so boring and had no life. I felt like they had no friends. I felt like they had no anything outside of our family. They never had plans on the weekends. And I was like, oh, I'll never be like that when I get older. Now I'm older. And I'm telling you right now, it's this damn house. I have to do something with this house now that I bought a house every weekend.
And I'll see a lot of people arguing in the comment sections because you bought an old house, of course things are going to break. Or you bought a brand new house, the quality's terrible. And I gotta say, both sides are right. We could take a look at a couple clips.
Here's everything that's gone wrong in 24 hours of owning a house. Water heater isn't working. Garage door won't open.
Were those things inspected?
And my furniture won't be here for 6 weeks. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's almost been 2 years exactly since I purchased this house. I've done a lot of work with it, but to be honest, when I purchased this house a while ago, I did not anticipate it to cost this much money. I had about $8,000 saved up for renovations, and let me tell you, it is way more than that what I thought. Everything that I thought would last me a couple years to save up or wouldn't break right away, such as the water heater and AC, broke right away, and I regret it painfully. Now that I'm stuck here, I need the AC fixed too, and that's going to be around $8,000 to $10,000, which is insanely insane considering that my house is only 1,000 square feet.
And going over to the comments, 180,000 is amazing for any house nowadays. But the creator replies, it's a townhouse. And from what the kitchen looks like, it does seem to be a bit older. But we got another comment here saying it an investment. Then there's just people going back and forth saying it's not, it is, it's not, it is. And then someone saying primary residence is not an investment, and this video highlights exactly why.
It is an
would like to add it being-
investment. I guess I'm trying to think. It can be an investment. It's not as concrete anymore as like the early 90s or 2000s and 2010s. I think back then it was more concrete on like, yes, home ownership was like the bee's knees. It's not as clear anymore, right? It's unfortunately now it's just a gamble. I think buying a home now is like you have to think to yourself, do you really want to go through the extra stuff? Because I'm really surprised at some people who didn't know some of these things. Like, of course, you're gonna have to pay for the repair or do it yourself. You're gonna have to put money aside, like I said, for future things that are gonna get broken. I think the first year I lived here, in my house, the AC broke. It was a hot summer, and I should have, but I did not prepare for it. And guess who had to sleep? Guess who had to sleep in her full-time job's office for like a whole month? Me. Thankfully, my job was graceful enough to let me. I would have to sleep on my desk overnight. It sucked, but you know, it made me prepare for the next time. So I have an emergency fund for that. That cost me $700. Now they did tell me that the air conditioner itself is aging, and if it breaks again, it's probably going to have to be the whole unit, and that's going to be about $10,000. So I gotta start saving now for that, for when that happens. Not if, when it happens. I've also I have to get trees removed because there's 3 trees right now that are potentially going to cause foundational issues with the house. So I got to pay someone to take those down. Then I had to hire someone of was it foundational engineer or structure engineer to come out and take a look at the house, make sure it's all structurally sound. I'm sure it's fine. But then I have to hire a mason to repair the bricks in the house. And then I have to hire someone to repair the roof, the tiles. They're getting old. I got to hire someone to replace the gutters in the house because those don't work anymore. Like, all stuff's cluttered and whatnot. So replace those with like the leaf guard ones. It's just a bunch of stuff that I got to do. It all costs money. So all that in between, like anything else that happens, like the washer I bought brand new, it's having problems, annoyingly enough. So I had to hire someone to come out and replace that. I'm probably just gonna buy an old appliance, by the way. If this one breaks again, I'm not gonna buy Whirlpool ever again. The dryer is fine, just the washer. But those are things you have to think of. Unfortunately, appliances, especially if you're buying new appliances, I gotta say, I shouldn't say this too loudly, but my oven and refrigerator that came with the house have lasted longer than the brand new washer I got from Whirlpool. But those are, anyways, that's a long tangent. Anyways, all I say is a lot of hidden costs, a lot of surprise costs that come along the way. You know. Is what it is.
A townhouse is probably not the best either, especially if you're comparing it to a single family home. But trying to look for investments or flips in any real estate property in 2026 is very hard to come by. And going back over to the first clip, LOL, is that a new build? And the creator replies, yes. If you've watched my new construction build series on this channel, you know they are a nightmare. The quality's just not there. Things are breaking
Quality's
left
horrible
and
for
right
all
basically
new built
right
homes.
away. So maybe you decide to buy an older house that's possibly a fixer-upper. We got a clip up on screen saying buy a fixer-upper, they say.
Now,
and going over to the description,
that
when you have a termite
should have
inspection
been
done and they say the
inspected.
house has good bones and no signs of termites.
That should have been inspected. I don't know if they had a a dollar store inspector go through that home, but the inspector should have checked for that. They should, I don't know, they didn't pay for an inspection, that's kind of on them. I think you could go after the inspector. I don't know how much of your how much you can recuperate, if an inspector did it wrong, if you immediately find that they were faulty in their findings. Like my inspector said that there were signs that there were termites, that there were signs of termites because there was termite dust, but that it seemed like they're no longer present. So he pretty much cleared the house of that. As part of the reasons I need to get the foundation fixed, or not fixed, but need to get the trees removed because they could potentially cause, I guess, termites, and don't need that. Don't want termites. The worst thing you could ever get. But yeah, I'm really surprised, unless they decided to do the inspection themselves or decide to not do an inspection, which would be very silly. It's very silly to not do an inspection on such a big purchase like this.
While the house is virtually falling apart. Everyone's saying, why don't you own a house anymore? With the entire lawn being dug up probably because of a pipe problem. Home ownership can be great, but wasn't for me. If you've been following, I sold my house 1 year ago and rent. After several expensive house projects, this issue makes me grateful I'm renting. I've been in my house for 2.5 years, $100,000, $100,000 in repairs. Home ownership is overrated. Everyone says it's a great investment. Really? Because my $350,000 house is going to cost $500,000 with interest. That's actually kind of low compared to other loans. Not to mention the $40,000 I've put in it for standard repairs, roof, AC, plumbing, which will likely have to be done another 1 to 2 times over my 30-year mortgage. When you thought buying your first home was going to be an exciting experience, and then it goes over to the house being flooded, it's been a nightmare. Did you get this inspected? This is wild. The creator responds, yes, I did. Realtor got someone to add French drain in the backyard and gutters after the inspection to prevent any issues. We had no idea it gets like this. Makes sense why the previous owners added new flooring to cover up the swelled up flooring after it happened to them. The examples just go on and on. We were second-time home buyers that still got F right when we first became parents as well. It's because we were in a hurry, let our guards down, and trusted an inspector too much. And they start showing that mold was basically all over their house and it was falling apart. Again, the inspector didn't catch or notice anything.
I would think you could go after the inspector for that, though.
We got another comment from you guys. I have a friend who bought a townhouse in an award-winning development, which I didn't even know was a thing. His townhouse is 16 years old. He and his neighbors just found out that the builder was wildly incompetent and there were severe moisture problems. They have mold in the walls growing on the floor to the ceiling and mushrooms growing inside the walls. At one point, they discussed tearing the complex down to the foundation because insurance didn't cover it. We could go over to the next clip with another example of something that everybody seems to want to have when they buy a house until they have to deal with the maintenance and upkeep.
Every summer we regret buying a house with a pool.
I would never get a pool.
I'm going to show you exactly why. We had to bring in reinforcements because this is a 4-person job.
Let me rephrase. I would never get an in-ground pool. Yes, it sounds like a lot of fun. An overground pool, at the very least, you can tear it down when you're done with it. An in-ground pool, unless you have a lot of money to invest in, like, someone, I guess you could do the maintenance, but like you said, I have a full-time job. I do this as a part-time job, essentially. I don't have time for all that stuff, maintenance. If you have a lot of money, if you can afford to have someone come out and do the maintenance on it, go for it. But you gotta really think to yourself, am I going to use the pool? And if the answer is yes, or if the answer is no, then don't worry about it. If its answer is yes, like how often? A couple times? If it's a couple times, just get an overground pool. Honestly. I used to think that overground pools were kind of silly. Now I see them as probably the better option of the two, if you really want a pool.
We live in Michigan, so we get a lot of snow, and our neighbor has this huge tree, so we get a lot of debris on our cover. So
All right, I'm cutting it there, but you've probably seen this before with anybody who owns a pool. It, of course, gets pretty dirty during the off season, along with possible rips and tears. I mean, they live in Michigan. Maybe the pool freezes. And at least in my opinion, if you live in the north or northeastern area, you're only going to have a couple months max where you could use the pool. I just don't see it being worth it in the long run.
When you thought you saw about absolutely everything in a flip, take a look at this.
I hear something.
Nice countertops, brand new sink.
Yeah.
Let's head under. The sink is held up by closet shelf brackets, drywall screwed into the side of the cabinets. That is awesome.
So this is a new tactic I haven't seen before. Instead of fixing the porch, they just put this fencing in front of it. But
I had that. It was really a shame. There was a house I looked at and I fell in love with the home. It was about the same price as this house, maybe a little bit more. And I was kind of heartbroken the fact I couldn't buy it. It was an older home. I didn't really mind the fact that it was older. I didn't mind the fact that I was gonna have to replace some of the flooring. But the biggest issue was that whoever owned it before must have done their own maintenance, and like you could tell it was like chopped up. Like the columns, it was I don't know if I could find a picture of the home, I might put it on screen. If not, it was like a really nice like I think from 1920s, 1930s, a really old home. It was really pretty though. It had a nice a really nice drive-in and everything. But it had something like this where instead of repairing, they just replaced it. And also there was possible foundation issues too. The brick was showing the way the brick was shifting. The broker explained that it looks like it was possible foundation issues, and I don't have the money to repair. I was like, oh, it was such a nice looking home too. But Stryker doesn't have the money to repair it though. It's a real shame because it had been sitting there for a long time.
as you can see, it's all falling apart.
Yeah.
You see it? There's a missing
That's
brick
what
right
that house looks like,
It's crumbling back here. Flipper's always keeping me on my toes.
We could just go straight over to another comment.
Really
from
heartbreaking
because
the house was so pretty.
I've seen so many flipped houses
It's
that
had
were literally
potential.
just lipstick on a pig. Everyone thinks they could flip houses now. And when it was very profitable during the beginning of COVID, so many current homeowners got trapped. But even though we've seen some examples of inspectors not doing their jobs in this video, I think it's incredibly important to be very thorough and find an inspector that will go through absolutely everything in the house.
Get a
It could
highly,
save you from
even it
buying
costs
a
you a little
property
more
that will
money.
be a nightmare.
Sometimes when I pull up to a home, I always look at the street to see kind of how it's cracking, it's moving. Sometimes that carries to the driveway, as you can see here. So I know
never
when I
would
show
think
a
about
home, get
that.
the lockbox key, open the front door, I've got to look at the garage when I see this. So sure, when I open the garage, there it is. So this crack is offset, meaning it's split and raised, and it's the size that a quarter could fit into. So you
That
can
was something
see
else
it
my broker
stops
told me.
right at the foundation. So technically speaking, the foundation isn't cracked. But let me show you the recourse that it can do inside the house. All right, first and foremost, that's where that crack would be coming in. So you can see it's caused a little issue there. My biggest issues occur up. So I start to see cracking at the windows, along the chimney, major crack at the corner there because the pressure is this way, and I'll show you why. But this is the crack that's consistent,
Oh my
parallel
gosh.
to what my problem is. Garage is there, parallel. That problem is right here. Everyone wants the canyon view, no backyard neighbor. But over time, with rains, years, winds, erosion, it starts to go down. And you have to retain that with rafters, little railroad ties, right?
Mm-hmm.
That help the property stay this way or it falls this way.
So how is this legal or ethical to have on the market? They're hoping that they get buyers that don't realize how big of a problem this is. My
Wow.
house is effed with all...
I would say an inspector like that would be 100% worth the money you spend. Like, get an inspector like that. Someone who's going to take a look at the small details, like the road. I would never have thought to look at the roadway to see cracks and to see the foundation, stuff like that. That is a W inspector.
the cracks in my driveway. The house is toast, yet it's on Zillow for $568,000. And like usual on this channel, most of the clips are from the US, but this doesn't mean that this problem isn't happening all over the world.
Oh.
I just wanted to talk about homeowner regret. Now that I'm in the market, I don't think I made a great choice. And now I'm stuck for at least probably 5 years here. Otherwise, I'll be losing money. Like, I thought this apartment was like a turnkey apartment. It's not a turnkey apartment. My dishwasher went. Like, I don't have a cooktop. Just got a plug-in hot plate. I've got to replace the oven because there's no numbers on there and it's sort of stuck. And I have to turn it on and off at the wall. Like, the courtyard's drainage is not working. Like, it looks like there's moisture under there. Even like painting and things. Like, I actually want to paint the place. You can see I've got these test batches which I did, and then I've had to sort of abandon it with everything, including rates and water and everything. It costs about 50% of my wage, but anything over 30% means you're in mortgage stress. But I do think 50% is pretty normal for Australians these days with the cost of housing.
And I think 50% in the US is also pretty common now. Maybe
I wonder what my cost would be. My mortgage to salary. But what is a turnkey rental? Is it okay? So there used to be a concept. I think it's pretty much extinct at this point in America. There used to be something called rent to own, where it's kind of like, instead of buying from the bank, you're buying from the owner of the home. The rent you put is getting put towards the ownership of the house. Again, it's pretty rare. I don't even think it really exists that much anymore. Like, the benefit is if you leave, you're a renter and there's nothing really to stop you, right? If you decide just like, is home ownership, is it for me? Because I think, I don't really know. I guess it would depend on the agreement. But I want to say you're pretty much home ownership, but you're renting. But you also have the ability to just pick up and leave if you decide you don't want to own anywhere. You don't get any money back, unfortunately. The money you put in the rent to own is kind of the owner's, from my understanding. But like I said, that's not very common anymore. At least not in America.
Even more. And even though we saw a couple of examples in this video of people selling their homes and going back to renting, not everybody's able to do so. There's an increasing amount of people who are underwater when it comes to their house.
Yeah.
All right, I am just reading an article right now that's talking about more than 1 million homeowners are underwater on their mortgages, which is a 7-year high, and explaining that this is a jump that's up from 60% compared to the start and end of 2025. I want to explain just from a mortgage broker's perspective and my thoughts on this and my recommendations to those of you who are wanting to buy this year and who want to avoid this from happening. So what this means essentially is, like, people in this scenario would have to take a financial hit if they sold their house, meaning they owe more money on their home than what they would actually make as a profit if they sold their house. Now, this is another piece here. So in addition to the 1.1 million people who are technically underwater in this scenario, an additional 3.2 million borrowers, or 7.9% of the overall population, have less than 10% equity in their home.
First-time home buyer here. Bought my home January of 2025 and then got an escrow shortage letter in January of 2026, increasing my monthly mortgage from $2,600 to $3,600 per year due to the increased property tax and insurance. Sadly, I may have to put up my dream home for sale and look for a townhome or condo, while also taking a pretty heavy loss on the price most likely. Bought in St. Cloud, Florida, paid $448,000 in 2022. It's now valued at $372,000 2000 and 2026.
R.I.P.
And we'll finish off this video with a comment from you guys. If you got in at 2.5% around COVID, you're most likely happy. If you have around a 7% or more, you're probably broke. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you bought just a few years ago, your sentiment on
mine's
home
like
buyers are
4.
probably very different than someone who
4%.
bought in 2015. But that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.
All right, well, again, my experience is anecdotal, just as much as everyone else's in the video. I guess if you're going to rent, you're going to buy. At the end of the day, do your research, please. Do your research. It is such a big purchase. It is I think it's considered one of the big 3 purchases in your life: car, a house, and like marriage, or maybe a kid. Probably a kid. Car, a house, and a kid. With 3 biggest not purchase, but like 3 biggest things that are expensive, right? Big costs. So keep that in mind. Something so big. Invest. Make sure you're absolutely certain. Keep an eye on the market. Nothing wrong with like educating yourself either. Like look into like the closing costs and everything. Understand the rates. What's a good rate? What's a bad rate? And if you can't get a home right away, unfortunately, just like rent out from places that you can afford. There's plenty of people out there, like the money guys. They have a pretty good resource on a guide as far as like how much you should put down, how much you should be saving. Again, I mentioned before, an emergency fund is really needed if you're gonna buy a home. All that stuff. But I'll stop talking your ear off and just pretty much talk about the same things over and over. But anyways, I'm curious to know if you guys rent, or do you own your own homes? Do you regret owning your homes? Do you regret renting? Would you ever consider buying a home, or do you think you'll be happy with just renting for this foreseeable future? Anyways, if you have any suggestions, what you'd like for me to react to, you could put it down in the comments below. You can also go to our Discord, and you can put your suggestions in there. Either way, thank you everyone for tuning in, and until next time, take care and have a good one.